You know, it's real funny to go from shooting my Mamiya M645 or my Rolleiflex one day and a pinhole camera the other day. It's kind of like giving myself visual whiplash. Hey there friends, welcome back to the channel. My name's Alex Oakes and today is a beautiful day to be out taking photos. So I decided to get you a camera review today, and not just any camera review, a camera that is new to the 21st century. But what makes this camera even more special is that it combines not only modern 3D printing technology, but one of the oldest documented optical effects. That is the Pinhole, and the camera I'm going to be reviewing is the Goodman Camera Co. Scura 6x6 Pinhole camera. So, like any review, let's go back and take a quick look at the history of not only pinhole cameras, but 3D printing as well, give you a brief tour of the camera, then I'll meet you back here. The camera obscura effect has been long documented through many ancient civilizations. The earliest known writings demonstrating the effect can be found dating back to 500 BCE in both Chinese and Greek writing. The oldest known naturally occurring pinhole can be found at a temple in Handmade, India. In ancient and modern history, scientists and artists have used the effect to study the physics of light and to help draw natural scenes. The first photographic use of pinhole is credited to the Scottish inventor David Brewster in 1856. Brewster spoke of a camera without a lens and only a pinhole, and a few decades later the pictorialist photographer movement latched on to the lensless camera. The resulting images were soft, dreamy, and looked a lot like the Impressionist paintings of the time. However, this didn't quite last, and the New Realism movement of the 1930s reduced pinhole to a mere curiosity, good for educational purposes only. Although within 3 decades, the photographers and artists of the 1960s were again making use of pinhole cameras, and these were embraced because of the simple and almost intuitive design. 3D printing, however, was first mentioned in 1945 as a was first conceptualized in the 1945 story Things Pass By, and again in Tools of the Trade in 1950. Through the 1970s and into the 1990s, the technology began to take shape, first in 1971 with the liquid metal recorder and thermoset polymer device in 1980. However, it wouldn't be until 1984 that what we know as the modern 3D printing technology hit the scenes. Developed by Bill Masters, this development laid the foundations for current 3D printing technology. The earliest company dedicated to the process came ahead in 1993, and in 2010 you really saw the technology come down in price and available to the average person, which allowed Dora Goodman to first open her shop in 2016. Her work started with wooden cameras or other custom updates to existing cameras. But what really makes the Scura 6x6 unique is that it is entirely created by 3D printing, and it is an in-house design, and it's available both in 120 and 35 millimeters. So why not take a look at this beautiful 3D printed camera? And here it is, the Scura 6x6. The design itself is very, very simple and yet has a great elegance to it. And the best part is that it comes looking like this right out of the box, even if you build it yourself. Probably the one thing I like the best is this sort of vinyl sticker that gives it that nice leatherette covering that looks so much like some of the other cameras I use. When you buy it pre-printed, it comes in standard black, although if you are printing it yourself, you can really make it any color you want. Control-wise, it's very simple. Up front here is where your pinhole is, and it actually has a slide bar that controls the shutter. So there it is open, and the pinhole itself is approximately 50 millimeters focal length and f1.68, so you have near infinite depth of field and a nice wide angle on your 6x6 frame. And the shutter is actually held in place by a trio of magnets, 2 in the actual shutter bar and 1 in the camera body. And this is also a real weak point for the camera itself, as in hotter weather it can expand slightly and makes it harder and often cause a bit of camera movement. But again, you're not looking at sharp images here. Up at the top, you have your 2 winders. This is the one, and I actually drew an arrow on it to help me know which way to turn the actual thing to advance. Here's your top screw. This actually holds the entire top plate in place, and you remove it to actually load the film in. On the back is your red window for film advance, and it also acts as a memo holder. So I usually keep this closed when actually out shooting to prevent any real light leakage. And these are both removable, so you have to really watch when you're out in the field that these don't fall off, because you will get light leaks. They're not 100% light tight. There's also a spot where you can put a camera strap. I keep mine off, and the best part is right here on the bottom you have a standard tripod socket. I use a little tiny tripod here just so that I get the thing nice and close to the ground for when I'm out shooting. So why don't we get this thing loaded? So today I'm here in Lions Valley Park in Oakville, Ontario, and I'm going to be shooting some Rollei Retro 80S. I'm going to be metering using my Goodman Luna 6F, and for that, since it only goes to f1.28 and the Scura has a f64 pinhole, I'm going to need to rate the film through the meter at ASA 50 so I get that full speed and accurate metering. So let's head down to the valley and I can talk about my experience in building this camera. There are 3 ways that you can get your hands on a Scura. You can download, print the camera yourself, source or purchase the required hardware kit. You can buy the kit pre-assembled, for a fee, or you can buy a pre-printed kit and construct it yourself. I went with the build it yourself option. I like a challenge, and coming from the background of building Lego and PCs, the Scura didn't seem to be too difficult. Thankfully, the kit comes with a full set of blueprints and assembly instructions. Despite a few frustrations overall, the camera went together easily. I constructed it over the course of 2 days, but if I completed it in one sitting, it would probably take about 2 to 3 hours. All the hardware and tools are provided in the box. You will need to get your hands on some plastic safe super glue. The one thing I didn't pay too much attention to was sanding down the camera, so there's some fibers inside that I'm stuck with editing out of the images. Setting the magnets of the shutter proved the most difficult, but after a few test fittings I could glue them in place. I also ended up gluing the entire front faceplate and pinhole together. Despite all its frustrations, the camera really wasn't that hard to build. I mean, it's finicky, it's fickle, but 3D printing is still an imperfect technology, so nothing's expected to really work the first time. As I said in the beginning, Pinhole and I never really got along. It doesn't really suit my general shooting style. I really needed to change my perspective in things. I started going out more in nature, looking for organic lines, things that really would suit the format well. And I really found myself pushing my own boundaries and coming up with fantastic images that are fun. And that's really what photography is all about. It's about having fun, trying new things. But enough of me talking, let's get further into my experience working with the Scura 6x6. Earlier, the most frustrating part of using the Scura is loading the film. When you're picking a film, you're going to want to go with a stock with a thinner base. The first roll I ran through the camera was Fuji Acros 2, and man, it was a pain to advance. Once I switched to Rollei RPX and Retro ADS, the advance was much smoother. You will of course need to balance your film choice between that thin base and having good reciprocity, because you're in for some long exposures. The Scura makes Pinhole accessible. It's small, easy to use, and that wide-angle 50mm pinhole provides soft dreamy images, perfect for both natural and urban settings. If there's one tip to keep in your mind is get in low and get in close. You can use a small tripod or set the camera down on a flat surface. The shutter is well designed but does stick in warmer weather. Make sure you have it all the way open or you'll end up with only half a frame. The film advance uses the typical red window, and I drew a directional arrow on the advance knob to help me in the field. While the knobs aren't perfect,
they work, although by the end of the roll it will become harder to move the film forward, and if you're unsure if you haven't wound the film up completely, wait until you can unload the camera in a change bag before you open up anything.
And there we have it. That's the Scura 6x6. It's a camera that has really invigorated my love and desire to figure out pinhole photography more. As someone who's used to sharp images and glass elements, it definitely makes me think a little bit more and think outside the box, despite my love of shooting square format. And the best part is that when it comes to pinhole photography, you can do anything you want with it, from building your own cameras to buying other homemade cameras, or even using body cap adapters to turn SLRs and mirrorless cameras into pinhole cameras. There's nothing that this format can't do and you can't do with it. So let me know in the comments, what's your experience with pinhole cameras? Are you the type who loves to build them yourself, or do you buy it? Or do you just hate the format? I mean, no one has to like everything with photography. That's what's so brilliant about the hobby. And there's a ton of online resources. Of course, there's the Dora Goodman site, there's the Lensless podcast, and the Mr. Pinhole website. You can find links to all of those in the description below. If you've liked this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe and hit that bell notification icon so you know when I release new content. Until next time, my name's Alex Lokes. Get out there, stay safe. When romping around in the woods, it's always good to know what poison ivy looks like.